The Senate committee finally issued a set of dietary goals in December 1977. The McGovern Committee issued a set of nutritional guidelines for all Americans, intended to battle heart disease, cancers, strokes, high blood pressure, obesity. In the dietary guidelines for Americans, they recommend fewer calories, less fat, less saturated fat, less cholesterol, more polyunsaturated fat.
All in favor of nominating vegetable oils, say aye.
Less sugar, less salt, more fiber, more starchy food.
The committee's original report urged Americans to reduce their risk of heart attacks by reducing their intake of cholesterol down to the equivalent of about 1 egg a day.
This great experiment we were doing with tax dollars seemed to have one idea repeated over and over. Cholesterol is bad, cholesterol is bad, on its own or in conjunction with other things.
One way to look at it is that saturated fats are healthy when you're not eating carbohydrates, or that saturated fat was never unhealthy all along, but that gets you into the realm of you're telling people that what they've believed is wrong.
As time has gone on, both doctors and private citizens have done their own experiments.
As a software engineer, I look a lot at networks. Networks are basically objects talking to each other, and a lot of understanding a network is kind of like understanding a brain. No one cell in the brain controls your whole body. That actually cholesterol was part of a larger network of objects and how it is that they can move about to provide us what we need.
Another thing we don't talk about is how complicated the human body is. For the government to even recommend what you should be eating in the first place is one thing, but for them to do it in such a simplistic way is another. You know, there were certain scientists that had some hypotheses, and they said, well, some of the stuff we're looking at is leaning towards red meat might be bad for your heart. The commission would say, well, what do you think?
Doctors took issue with that at the hearing, saying that 8 studies involving 5,000 patients failed to show hard medical evidence that diet has anything to do with heart attacks.
I have pleaded in my report and will plead again orally here for more research on the problem before we make announcements to the American public.
Yes, before you make announcements to the public, you should have data that proves what you're saying. Maybe like Dave Feldman did.
My story is a bit interesting. I found that I could move my cholesterol up and down with the dietary fat that I ate. So the more fat I ate, the lower my LDL-C. The less fat I ate, the higher my LDL-C.
On a 3-day diet of over 5,000 calories and 450 grams of fat, he lowered every marker of cholesterol.
I eventually got a number of other people to replicate this. The success rate is somewhere around 85% of those people went on a low-carb, high-fat diet, fatty cheeses, fatty meats, fatty nuts. And in doing so, even though their calories increased substantially, even though their saturated fat just jumped through the roof, their LDL-C and their total cholesterol plummeted. It's very unintuitive, but sure enough, the more fat they would eat, the lower their LDL-C.
Dave Feldman is not a doctor at all. This guy took all of the science that was available and figured it out. Yet members of a publicly funded committee took 10 years to find nothing. And when they were pressured to change recommendations with no science to back it up, they ran around in circles for a while and came out with the same report, but this time they said, oh, you can have some meat and some salt.
I would only argue that senators don't have the luxury that a research scientist does of waiting until every last shred of evidence is in.
So there you have it, the national advice that everything you see today is based on.
That report was then taken over to become official government policy. So it went over to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and by 1980, they came out with the policy, which was the Dietary Guidelines for All Americans. I think it's audacious that the government, based on very weak evidence, should tell Americans what to eat, a healthy population at the time.
How do you tell some guy from the Midwest who's been living on beef his entire life to start eating vegetables? Especially at that time, you couldn't get them year-round. You couldn't get fruit year-round. It wasn't like it is today where we refrigerate and ship fruits and vegetables around the world. You're telling people from different parts of the United States what to do, how to do it, and everyone's just throwing their hands up going, I'm going to do the best I can. Do I think the government was complicit in causing this problem? Yes. Do I think they meant to do it? Absolutely not. I think McGovern's heart was in the right place. They just went the wrong way about it.
But we went on that experiment, and the government put us on that experiment. They didn't ask us about it. They didn't ask our advice. They just told us how to eat, and they told the food industry, asked the food industry to produce low-fat food products.
Industry slowly is responding to it, producing foods that are lower in salt and fat and so on, and people are beginning to get the message.
Low cholesterol, no cholesterol, lowers cholesterol.
Good fat, bad fat, low fat, non-fat.
Milk suddenly came in, you know, bewildering number of varieties, all of them reduced in fat. And whether or not it was a result of the experiment, this coincided with the obesity, explosions in obesity and diabetes we've been seeing today.